Hey, Archie, I understand that retirees are getting a pay raise.
Well, Rob, that's true, but there's a few gotchas in there, so we should talk about that so that we're not surprised. Weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. This is Last Paycheck. Well, welcome back to the Last Paycheck Podcast, brought to you by Hoxton Planning and Management. We're your hosts, CFP professionals Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton. And today, we're going to be talking about the latest news about Social Security. That is what the cost of living adjustment is. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Medicare, maybe what Medicare might look like next year, and kind of how to plan. There are a handful of changes that are coming into the picture, some things that are not changing. And the big theme is really that there's a cost of living adjustment, but there's also seems like in most cases more tax. So how much of that will you see? We'll find out.
What the government giveth, the government taketh away. It's like, it's great to get a pay raise. Everybody loves to get a pay raise. The episodes that we do on the Social Security cost of living increase are always the ones that have the highest number of views.
Yeah.
But the problem is, as you'll see as we talk, if you're receiving Social Security benefits, you are going to get a pay raise.
Mm-hmm.
But Uncle's taking a lot of it back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
In a handful of ways. So I think a good place to start is talking about how the pay raise is actually calculated and how it's determined.
This is surprising. This is surprising to a lot of people.
It's not how you would think. It's not super intuitive. It's not kind of like, okay, how much have prices gone up from January 1 to December 31st? And then that's what you get. It's really weird. They look at the CPIW, which is essentially the consumer price index for urban and clerical workers. They look at the average CPIW numbers from the third quarter of the previous year. So right now we're talking about third quarter of 2024. And then they look at the average third quarter CPIW numbers for 2025. And the difference between the two, expressed as a percentage, is your cost of living increase. So in many years, as you can imagine, there's actually because it's third quarter to third quarter, there's actually no Social Security increase. So you don't always get one at all.
Yeah. Sometimes it's quite large. I mean, if you look back in time in 1980, when inflation was running away with things, 1980 the increase was 14.3%. 1981 it was 11.2.
Yep.
And man, I also say, Archie, that I just love how the government has different consumer price indexes for different purposes, right? This is the CPIW. You got the CPIU. I mean, you've got all these different, and it kind of makes you wonder, why do we have different consumer price indexes, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the way it is.
Well, they're measuring different things and they're weighting it. Like this one, they're looking up prices for different baskets of goods, and then they're using surveys to determine how they should weight those baskets based on, how much people are spending on each. Mm-hmm. But it is a specific subset of people that they're looking at. So, it's not an easy thing to determine, but it is. I've always found it to be odd that it doesn't match how most people, if average Joe were in charge, he would say, well, how much have prices gone up in 2025 maybe it would be 12 months starting the third quarter of 2024, 12 months to during that period. It's really the average change in the third quarter compared to the average changed in the fourth, in the third of the following year. So it's just not very intuitive.
Well, if we look back over the last few years, inflation peaked in 2022. That year we got an 8.7% increase. And then since then, inflation numbers have been coming down for the most part. In 2023, there was a 3.2% increase. In 2024, a 2.5. That's what we're living with now.
Mm-hmm.
And so as inflation's been coming down, so has the cost of living increased. Now, in 2026, do you want to say it what the number is?
Sure. The increase for this year is 2.8%. So again, that's third quarter of last year to third quarter of this year. The change was 2.8%. That was just announced. That was the big news. So it's actually a little higher than we got for this year, for 2025. So, that's good news, I think, for most people.
Yeah, and that translates for, on the average, for the average individual who's receiving benefits, the average benefit received for an individual is $2,015 per month. Currently, that's going to go to $2,071 a month. For couples, the average is $3,120. That's going to $3,208. But before you get excited, there's another shoe to drop.
Yeah. Well, and also I might just say, looking at that, that does seem a little underwhelming. You see that when you are looking at your monthly bills and how that's changed in the last few years, that does seem a little underwhelming, even without the other shoe you just mentioned that is dropping. And a big part of, there's probably a few shoes. A big part of what comes out of Social Security is two things for most people: taxes. Your benefit is taxed. It's usually withheld from your benefit. And Medicare. And the base Medicare premium, which is the premium that you pay unless you're subject to IRMA. So as your income goes up, your Medicare premium goes up. But the base right now is about $185 a month. They haven't released the new one yet, but the estimate is $206 a month. So that's $21 a month. If you're a married couple, or I guess let's say if you're single, an individual, and you're receiving, call it $56 a month increase potentially, almost half of that is going to be eaten up right away by the Medicare increase if it ends up being.
Yeah, so you ask yourself why, and the reason is that when the cost of living increase is calculated, they're looking at sort of all of the things a typical person might need to buy: housing, food, fuel, all of these different things. Health insurance. Health insurance is but one of the items that we have to spend money on every month. Well, the health insurance inflation rate is much higher than the CPI-W.
Yeah.
And so this is likely to continue to happen, and that is that we get a cost of living increase on the Social Security benefit, but because our healthcare costs are going up so much faster than everything else, you could picture a day where all of the cost of living increase that you get on your Social Security is eaten up by
your
Medicare premium increase.
Yeah. That certainly could be the case.
Yeah.
We're halfway there now, almost. Well, and I remember when we did an episode on this in the past, we got several comments saying, yeah, so we're getting the increase, but it is almost all of it's just going to my Medicare. And on one hand, yep, that's part of the purpose of the increase, is to cover the increase in costs. But it's tough because both of those are, the government is kind of determining both of those, both the cost of the Medicare, the increase to the cost of the Medicare, and the increase in your Social Security. So it's hard when you see that and you're kind of like,
Here's another thing. This is kind of sneaky, actually. I didn't really think about this until I read about it. But, not everyone who receives a Social Security benefit is subject to federal taxes on that Social Security benefit.
right.
It's based on how much you have in income,
Right.
ordinary income. Well, they've increased the benefit amount, but they didn't change the floor at which you become subject to taxes. Archie, you've got the numbers.
Yeah, so if you earn $32,000 or less as a married couple, if you're under that, your Social Security benefit is not taxable.
And by earned, you're just talking about ordinary income, not necessarily earned income.
Right. If you are single, it's $25,000. So those aren't changing. So what you can imagine is as their income goes up, as it naturally does for most, including through Social Security increases, more people kind of pop into that 50% taxable, which is the next. Once you go over $32,000 for married couples, that benefit is taxable at 50%. It caps out at 85 right now. So people start bumping into that. Yeah. And then also, again, every dollar that you earn in Social Security, once you're already there, that increase, either half of it or 85% of it is subject to tax. So again, like Medicare and tax, even though you're getting more, a little bit more is going away to those places. So it is a tricky, kind of a sneaky, and so we often call that the tax torpedo. One of the ways that your taxes can spike in retirement is by inadvertently ending up in either the 50 or 85% tax. What would you call that? The 50% or 85% of your benefit becoming taxable. That can spike your taxes really, really quickly, and you can inadvertently get into one of those brackets.
And then that can also have an impact on how much you pay for Medicare as well, right? So there's a lot there. There are these income-related surcharges on your Medicare. You probably are aware of it if you're receiving the benefit. But it looks back the last 2 years, 2 years prior, to look at your income to figure out how much your premium should be. The base Part B and D premiums are going to go, we think, to $206 a month per person. But that number could be substantially higher depending upon what your income was 2 years prior. That's called IRMA.
Yeah.
So all of these things, there's a lot of interplay here. And there are lots of planning opportunities to try to make sure that you structure the income that you recognize so as to keep your Medicare premiums as low as possible. There's other not great news as well. If you're still working and you're still paying into the system, you're not yet receiving your Social Security benefit, then the income cap is going up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens pretty much every year.
That will most likely continue to happen pretty aggressively, I'd imagine, as we get closer to kind of that decision time of, okay, how do we fund Social Security for another 50, 100 years? That income cap. So essentially, how much of your income is subject to Social Security tax while you're working through FICA taxes, that's been going up. Right now, it's $176,100 of earnings are subject to FICA taxes. In 2026, that's going up to $184,500. So this is really more of an issue for high earners. If you're a really high earner, at some point throughout the year, you might notice that your pay bumps a little bit. Most likely, that is due to either if you're maxing out your 401k and you hit the max partway through the year, you get a little bump. Another way that happens is if you cap out Social Security, you hit the max.
And you're not paying into the Social Security system anymore.
Right.
Until January.
Until next year.
Yeah. And
so that goes up. So now you've got it's about a little over $8,000. So, you've got another $8,000 to earn before you get that little bump in your cash flow.
So this is an interesting dynamic from a planning standpoint. If they keep raising the cap, which I'm sure they're going to do, and there's a lot of talk about maybe even removing the cap so that all of your earned income is subject to the FICA tax, and the total FICA tax is 15.3%, right?
Yeah.
half of it's paid by the employee, half of it's paid by the employer. So if they take that cap off or they keep raising it, the percent, and you're earning higher than that, the percentage of your earned income that's actually replaced by Social Security for high earners just keeps going down. So as for a high earner, it's kind of a raw deal, right?
Yeah.
You keep paying more and paying more and paying more, but you receive less and less and less.
Yeah.
On real terms, and so I'm not sure that anybody's going to be able to really do anything about that, though.
No, I mean, this is, I guess, you can easily get into the more philosophical side of Social Security, but, this cap, essentially is there so that, you're sort of, okay, if we can fund it without having the highest earners totally subsidizing, then let's do that, and to keep it so I'm getting back roughly what I'm paying in, or it's at least not I'm paying in a lot and not getting back but a fraction of it. If they were to get rid of the cap, then it is essentially, if we're funding it that way, it is essentially, hey, if you're earning more, you're not going to get much back, and you're subsidizing other people. And maybe that's what needs to happen to keep it going, and it's for the best for society. I mean, this is where you get into the philosophical side, which we might touch on.
That wasn't how it was sold to our great-grandparents, though.
No,
right? It was not at all. And but it is increasingly becoming more that way.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's this nice benefit of a cost of living increase, but there are lots of little gotchas. And again, what the government giveth, the government can taketh away, right?
Yeah. And this is why Social Security should always just be one leg of a stool, and probably the smallest leg of a stool that makes up your retirement plan. Especially the longer you have to plan for this, work on those other legs of that stool.
This is a great area where financial planning can really pay huge dividends because not only do you want to make sure you plan correctly, but you also want to look for ways to optimize the way that you claim your benefit. When you take it, how you take it, it makes a difference.
That's a permanent decision. When you file, you can't take it back. And so don't go in and just be careful about taking the advice from the Social Security Administration. Make sure you've got a good plan and talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. Or do some really good digging to figure out when it's right for you, because it's an individual, unique decision that everybody needs to. There's no cookie cutter answer, in other words, for that. So, well, that's about all the time we've got. So we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you like it, if you have ideas for other things you'd like to hear more about, leave us a comment, share the idea with us. We love hearing from you all. If you're not subscribed yet, please do us a favor. It helps us a ton to subscribe and like the video. Share it with your family and friends.
Hit the bell for alerts.
Yeah, we release new episodes every Wednesday. If you get a notification, you'll never miss any content. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.